All right, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another We've Read the Documents live stream. I'm your host, John Brisson. I'm going to post a Zoom link in the chat if anybody wants to join. Only got a short period of time, and I might cut you off to get someone else in. Rapid fire Zoom calls. Join if you want to. Course, everybody's excited about the Fauci leaks. Seems to me that they're right on schedule. And people are pushing it out there. Look, any leak, doesn't matter where it comes from, of that substantial amount of data, it's controlled. They didn't put it out there. This is the implosion of the old world order. Of course, Trump's like, well, I should have fired Fauci, playing his role. Trump had every opportunity to do that. The Jesuit Fauci, Trump still praising Operation Warp Speed. And so nothing's changed as far as that regard. Most people are out there, sharing the emails about Fauci talking about the efficacy of masks or, asymptomatic spread. However, those emails that people are sharing are early February 2020. Obviously, the counter narrative to that is going to be, well, things change once we learn more about the virus. I mean, come on, you guys. I mean, think. All right, they're setting you up for that. It's easy to see that. Fauci leaks for nothing we already didn't know. And it's going to push more of the war drums for China. Both sides want war with China. Maybe it'll be hopefully, if anything is going to happen, it'll be a Cold War. But the CNP wants war with China. The CFR wants war with China. The Atlantic Council is very hawkish towards China. They have been for, a little bit now. So both sides want war with China. So they're going to talk about the Wuhan lab leak now, unveiling that to the world. Makes people feel like that they're right. Now, whether or not it came from Wuhan, whether or not it came from Fort Detrick, we'll never know. We'll never know. Oh, okay. Well, actually, we got someone in here. Hello? Actually, oh no. I don't have my headset plugged in. Hey, Jesse, you there? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Hey, Jesse, you there?
Hey, John. You were my intro. I was going to say, long-time listener, first-time caller.
I guess that is true, huh?
No. So, yeah. So I was on Twitter right as you went live. You want to know what I was peeping at?
Oh boy, what were you?
I need help with this. I don't exactly know what the strategy would be, but I definitely need people to know that Jeremy the Quartering and Tim the Pool Man Pool are having a gay Twitter fight about who's straddling the fence. This is incredible to me because this is like Joe Rogan started the art form, and all three of them are absolutely what I hate about this culture, and I think have come to basically define the stagnation that we all feel. It's just inside baseball, guys. This is what these people do. Is they look at their analytics, right? They go to their YouTube revenue, and they look to see basically how to just please everybody or maybe throw somebody under the bus. And we get another story about some woke leftist doing something, and we get this impression of progress, but really they're just commercializing our lives, these people.
Well, how many people did they fool with Blair White? For a time she was the MAGA tranny, right? And then, oh, look, she's against woke culture, or he's against woke culture, should I say.
Well, I have difficulty figuring out what's in the dialectic and what's just commercially driven. You know what I mean? But what I do have, what I can recognize is little jealousy games or people battling for street cred. And right now, what's happening 100% is Jeremy is going after Tim's street cred. And let's be honest here. Nobody deserves to be knocked down a peg more than Tim Cast. Because I've been watching these people from afar of like, what exactly do people see in this guy? Like he can have a podcast, and he even pretends like he's got everybody in the room together deciding which way, you know, culture needs to go. But he just basically says like, oh, I don't know. What I do know is like, we're not going anywhere. This culture is not going anywhere, except for maybe like key issues of like free speech, or, you know, we can all agree that big tech is censoring us, and then everything else is just stale. It's stagnation. So I can't tell you exactly what's going on, but there's definitely a street cred battle going on between the Quartering and Tim Pool. And can we please expose this tendency? Can we please expose this trend where these people are they've just figured out how to get revenue based on our interests? And can we just educate our audiences to how this works and how it's not going to get better anytime soon by just feeding back into it? That's my only real qualm.
You mean people, Jesse, that act like they're fighting against quote unquote woke culture and liberalism, but in reality they do nothing but spin their wheels all day long?
Yes. Yeah. In the Quartering's case, he's spinning his wheels means he wakes up and he gets on Twitter and he says, what do you guys want me to report on today? And they feed him all of his leads. Then he like emotionally reacts to like the new Ghostbusters movie, and then the whole internet responds. And then I don't exactly know what's supposed to happen as a result of that, right? We do have real stories, right? We think Rand Paul versus Fauci it's a real story because it affects all of us. But I think most people have come to consensus that it's like the dialectic. It's a limited hangout, right? But the place where I've come to is that everything's a limited hangout. Like everybody is blind to each other. So if you can get some traction, if you can get some friction, you know, like just stay in the like fight against the apathy, fight against the sloth. And I want to talk about sloth with you because I think you're right. I think that's what's being exposed right now. Is like Jeremy and Tim Pool are just lazy. They're complacent.
Yes.
Tim Pool, he's got this like Nazi style mansion in a mountain somewhere, just based on ad revenue of feeding us back the stories of the culture war. Jeremy, they're basically fighting right now about who's the laziest, which is just brilliant. So I just hope Joe Rogan looks on. You know, you've got Joe Rogan looking on at Quartering and Tim Pool, and they're all a bunch of fence-sitting morons, and then nothing real is happening unless we all get together and do something. So anyways, that's what I wanted to share with you. And rapid fire, I will peace out unless you got something to say. I'd like to talk about sloth.
Yeah, one last thing, Jesse. We have Tim Pool, I guess the Quartering and Tim Pool making fart noises.
Wait, Tim Pool's in the room? Tim Pool?
Yeah, and they're making fart noises at each other, and the Quartering, of course, in a mocking bear spirit type aspect, tweets a bear farting in the woods.
Yeah. Definitely. You've got bear energy, sloth energy. They have a little Twitter back and forth, and so my suggestion is, yeah, they're both a bunch of tools, but you've got to look at the stagnation of it, the clout chasing aspect of it. You have to realize this is the natural conclusion. It's almost like an echo of the Alex Jones, Joe Rogan thing from 2 years ago. It's like these are the biggest broadcasters, and for the fact that the culture has stagnated to this level. And also Jeremy in particular is projecting his shame about Israel, right? He's a Zionist shul.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not a war criminal. He's just a guy reporting on things, makes a little money on the side. So he has to have street cred. He has to project that onto Tim. He has to, right? That's how these people work. Is it's never news. It's just this type of stuff. So I say go with it, guys. I say really bear down into it, and let's if put a little like shake the shake that coil loose and see what falls out, see what shakes out. There'll be people saying it's all fake, it's all scripted. That's, in my opinion, low-hanging fruit. Let's really test this one. Let's do a stress test on Jeremy and Tim. And like my coworkers, everybody I know, they say the two YouTubers that I just cannot stand are Quartering and Tim Pool, because they just sit on the fence and that's all they ever do. Well, let's shake the fence. That's all I got to say, John. Thanks for the air.
All right, Jesse, take care. And you're right, man, because I'm so tired of. I never liked the Quartering. I never liked Tim Pool. I never cared for any of them. And I saw what you're saying, where they would do that. They would just sit on the fence, and they never took any strong stances, and they would run polls to their audience, always asking them, bring me news, what do you think? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Because it's all about clicks. It's all about getting listeners. It's all about making money. They have no firm stances on anything. And that's how both of them are. I never was a fan of either one of them. So yeah, I definitely agree with Jesse. We need to stay strong, talk about what we want to talk about on YouTube the best that we can. Not ride the fence as much as possible, no matter what grief it gets you. Of course, as Christians, that's going to get us a lot of grief anyway. The world hates us, especially right now. But anybody else want to call it real quick? I got 20 minutes. I want to thank you, Jesse. Of course, Jesse's a dear friend of the show. Go subscribe to Jesse's channel. Here's the Zoom link. But yeah, one of the things I want to bring up is something I hope happens just for the entertainment purposes. MAGA Throwdown. Roger Stone wants to debate Steve Bannon as a traitor to the Trump movement. So Roger Stone on InfoWars threw down the gauntlet against Steve Bannon when he was being interviewed by Owen the Destroyer Schroyer. So that's quite interesting there. Very, very, very interesting. So now they're shots fired. They're doing tweets showing how fat Steve Bannon is and how sloppy he is. So that'll be interesting. We'll see if anything comes out of that. I don't know. But I know it's something for the masses. But occasionally I want to see a steel cage fight. I doubt it'll happen. I think it'll be more interesting, of course, than the Fuentes. What's his name? Robert Barnes debate. So, hey Shane, good luck at work today, brother. Good to see you. Hey Gam, hope you're well. Anybody else want to call it real quick just for a second? One more Zoom call. But yeah, back to Fauci. It's a self-implosion of Fauci if it happens at all. Trump's going around, the jab, jabby, jabby, jab. The jab's great. I did the jab. It's awesome. It's the best thing ever. It's amazing. Biden's, farting around, being controlled as a puppet. Nothing's really happening on Biden's front, except for the, trillion upon trillion dollar budget that got released. Yeah, I'll talk about Fauci. So, I believe that Jesuit Fauci works for the old world order, maybe even the new world order. Who knows? He could work for either one. I'm actually thinking about it. Yeah, maybe the new. I believe they put him up there as someone to hate, kind of like Bill Gates. Not excusing that Bill Gates is guilty of anything. But Fauci, so the left idolized Fauci, the right casted all their hate onto him. Very much like Bill Gates. The left idolized Bill Gates as a savior. and the right casts all their hate onto Bill Gates. So it's a way of kind of removing the other players, investigation of other players around these people, or they won't really look. They won't really look into the people around them, and so this is to further move, in my opinion, the war drums with China is to further show the exposure of the old world order. I still can't reconcile the same with Mike from On Point Preparedness of why Trump keeps tweeting about the vaccine, because it is turning off some of his supporters, and he's losing some of them because of it. Not really tweet. Why I say tweet? Put out statements from the former offices of the president. Tweeting was a I misspoke there. I'm sorry. But that's hurting him. I haven't quite figured that one out yet. I don't know. There's, the Arizona audit's almost done in Maricopa County. So that's going to be interesting to see what comes of that. I don't know. Is Trump running for 2024? Or is Trump going to be reinstated president? I doubt the latter, but the world order, anything's possible, right? So, Fauci's book appears to be pulled. The Fauci leaks was no information that we didn't already know. Validation, of course, is important. But what is it validating? All leaks are controlled, in my opinion, for the most part, that are that substantial. So I guess we'll see. Is Fauci done? I don't know. But I do think Fauci's a scapegoat. Bill Gates is a scapegoat. Yeah, Jesse, come back on. I'll have you on for 10 more minutes, and then I'll go. Come back on. I want to hear your take on Fauci. There's no one else. I want to discuss Fauci real quick, and then no more rapid calls. I guess rapid calls in the morning is a bad time. Also, I got a new mic too. I'm testing it out, so I want to hope it sounds good. Let me know if it sounds good to chat, you guys. But it'll be interesting to see what happens to Fauci. Interesting to see if they continue to release more information about it being a Wuhan leak after denying it was a Wuhan leak. It's kind of like give and take, right? Because now everybody's like, it's a Wuhan leak. China's got to pay what they play, or pay what they owe. So, I guess we'll see about that, huh? We'll see whether China's going to pay what they owe. We're going to go to war with China. It's all give and take, right? The unveiling. Everybody, ISIS unveiled, right? The old world order's unveiled. It's great, right? It's what everybody told us it was always be. It's awesome, right? Oh, darn it, Jesse. Okay, I'll have to figure that out. I didn't mean to kick you. I was just booting out so I could get someone else. Okay. Well, that sucks. I'm sorry, Jesse. I don't know how to... Well, I could restart a Zoom meeting. That's what I could do. All right. Here, try this link. I'm doing well in today's profit. Hope you're doing good too. Try to join now. It's a new link, Jesse. Eamon Bundy's running for governor of Idaho. Of course, he said the Mormon Mafia was the reason why the Bundy family went down. That's extremely interesting with him being a Mormon himself. In today's, if I could just get you to leave the religion of your family, Mormonism, and convert completely to Protestantism. One day I will hopefully do that. In the name of Jesus Christ. Hopefully it will be done. All right, Jesse. Back, Jesse? Yeah, you're back. Can you hear me?
All right. Sorry. Yeah, it took like three reconnects. So Fauci, yeah, and I think I'm somewhat familiar with your take on it. You and I have different approaches. So I
Yes, of
think
course.
that's the gist of it, is so I'm always looking at things through two filters, although I'm not talking well, three filters, but to get worldly, you've got the Hegelian dialectic, meaning both sides are actually on the same side,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other thing, which we haven't really talked about in a while that we really need to, is the Pavlovian pattern conditioning. So Pavlov's bells, you have the dogs with the meat, you ring the bell, gets the dogs to salivate. Next time you don't even have meat, you just ring the bell, they salivate. Well, I think that's really the lens you have to look at the whole COVID thing through, because it's like music. If you want to look at it like a story that's unfolding, you go, oh, here's what they're going to do with Fauci. It's really inconsequential what they're going to do with Fauci. I think we all know that they're not really going to hang him out to dry. If you looked at Harvey Weinstein or Hillary Clinton, anytime somebody's emails get dumped, it just basically serves to I don't know. It's like a pressure release valve. I was thinking the other day, it's like, oh, I'm so glad that I don't live in this hell anymore. Like, I'm so glad we don't have to wear the masks at work and all that. But then, I caught myself and I said, man, but you know what? Maybe another week of wearing masks and people really would start, doing something, like maybe if I was wearing a mask here in Tennessee, maybe just one more month and this whole thing would start falling apart, right? So I think you kind of have to look at it like music, and you have to look at it like the people are still under this spell. The people are still they're programmed with whatever they last got programmed with. You have to remember, as soon as this whole thing started, everybody became experts, and they said, wear a mask. It doesn't even matter really what Fauci says.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I heard Fauci say masks are inconsequential, and they basically, the mob went to him and said, gee, coach, our team, what about our team? Like, it'd be great if we had uniforms. So now we've got a paper trail, and we've got this thing basically playing out with Rand Paul. And I'm not saying Rand Paul is fake. I'm just saying that these people, some of them listen to John Oliver, some of them listen to Stephen Colbert, some of them watch CBS, some of them listen to NPR, right? So I think the overall filter, the overall lens, is you have to think of Pavlov conditioning, and parts of the deception are going to fragment and fall away. We're going to gain momentum in some areas, but some other areas we're always going to be living with this nightmare. We're always going to be living with people speaking on behalf of public health and safety, and naturally the scientists know, and okay, well, maybe Fauci has been discredited, but what about this scientist, right? So that's the lens that I would look at. I hope I did a good job just kind of explaining it, not through Hegelian dialectic, but through the Pavlovian aspect of it.
So, Jesse, the deception is so thick, okay?
Yep.
And that's, people generating their own deception, Satan generating deception, and even God sometimes putting a veil down to as well to the world. So, Fauci being like, oh, we don't need masks, and then later saying, well, we didn't really know much about the virus, so we did need masks. And then it reminds me kind of like putting gas in a gas pedal and then easing off the gas. It's the same for the pressure release valve.
Yep.
And that now, people are getting to a fever pitch where they just don't give a crap anymore, So they're like, okay, so now we're going to divide people. If you still have to wear a mask, you still have to wear a mask if you don't get a vaccine. Of course, no one's doing it. I mean, obviously. I mean,
I've been asking people. I've just been asking people, hey, are you paying attention to the corruption anymore?
Yeah.
And the last guy I asked, he like kind of scoffed and laughed. He's like, no. Yeah. Like, he's just like, they're just like, the way that you claim your identity is, you're like, I'm not even paying attention anymore. This is, like, it's just so outlandish. It's so absurd at this point what people will go along with. But yeah, continue.
No, you're right. So now they, they released the pressure. He used the infamous pressure valve, kind of analogy. And so now, people are like, okay, we can finally breathe. The boot's slightly off our neck, even though Operation Warp Speed is still continuing. Palantir is still monitoring everything. And now, now what happens in the fall when they either release a more deadlier strain or it comes back where they're like, oh, well, we got to lock down everything again because the
Yeah.
anti-vaxxers didn't get their vaccines and there were people who weren't wearing masks who weren't vaccinated.
Right. So that's all under the banner of Pavlovian conditioning, which which was successful. Like you're going to take the evidence. You're going to say, look, here's Fauci's emails, right? And they're just choosing their favorite, Stephen Colbert character or whatever. Like I think watching Stephen Colbert is going to tell us the most because he's like the Pied Piper of all these idiots, right? So if Stephen Colbert actually slows down and changes his tune, which is unlikely because he's a fellow Jesuit, Anthony Fauci, Jesuit, Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert is probably just going to mock and downplay and that's going to further condemn basically our loved ones. I mean, that's just going to show what kind of pathetic, sad little slothful lives. They don't even need a moral justification. I mean, they just need somebody kind of laughing along on their sad little march towards the afterlife. But so I do want to add one lens to look through that I thought of the other day. There's a long history of biological warfare, right? And it's always disguised, it's always hidden. This whole gain of function thing, it didn't hit me at first, but it occurred to me the other day that when I lived in New Orleans, I would sit in my apartment and I would order books on Amazon. I had like 20 or 30 books on the JFK assassination. One of my, favorite books was Dr. Mary's Monkey, which takes place in New Orleans about this mysterious death of Mary Sherman. And, she had a missing arm and part of her rib cage was missing and it wasn't reported on. So this author went digging and found it connected to the deeper scandal. It's an amazing rabbit trail. If I know it's depressing, but if you want to look through another lens of history, you've got the Dr. Oshner in New Orleans, tied to Lee Harvey Oswald, David Ferrie, other JFK conspirators. You might not know this if you're out there, but Lee Harvey Oswald was tied to a biological weapon, kind of a gain of function type thing going on with David Ferrie and others in New Orleans. And so, one key to that is there might not just be one Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald has the hugest paper trail. There's a whole trailer that went back to Langley, Virginia when they were reporting on him. But Fauci and Oshner, I've been thinking that is there a connection between Fauci and Oshner, or is he just kind of like a contemporary of Dr. Oshner? Oshner was involved with the polio vaccine.
Yeah.
And that's a part of the JFK assassination. It gets discussed a little bit, but people get lost talking about the vagabond. They spiral in Dealey Plaza instead of following the money. But if you follow the money, Lee Harvey Oswald was something like a courier for the mob. He was a courier for Dr. Oshner, for the Justice Department, for the possibly naval intelligence. I mean, he was all over the damn place, and so that's why you've got people saying that there were two Oswalds, that people like there's an author who just follows the trail of Oswald and says, well, they definitely were using like doubles, or they had MK Ultra handlers in two different cities. And so there's two books of Oswald in New Orleans. There's one by a woman claiming to be his girlfriend at the time called Me and Lee. And then this book that I'm talking about called Dr. Mary's Monkey. And I love both books. So if people if people are depressed and you can't get through your family with just the, what's right in front of their face, try to go the history route.
Use the idol of JFK.
Well, the idol of JFK, or just through the historical context of the Cuban Revolution, and the fact that we've been disconnected from our own history since 1950s, 1960s onward through all this clandestine bullshit. It's like you've got this little communist experiment, 90 miles off the coast of Florida, and all these terrorist campaigns that we're running against these people. And you're just not allowed to acknowledge that part of U.S. history because obviously by that point CIA was going from country to country, continent to continent, just putting these Dominican republics, or what am I trying to say, banana republics under the central banks. So the gain of function research that Fauci was doing in Wuhan, China, has got an echo back in the heart of New Orleans with Dr. Oshner sending, God knows what types of vaccines or viruses to South America, Central America. There's a long history of the United States and imperialism through this type of biological warfare, which now all of a sudden we're allowed to talk about, but we haven't been historically until now. And
but we're only allowed to talk about it for only the Wuhan lab to, beat the drum to China.
There are so many cover stories for this type of activity. People who work in like cancer research or cancer awareness or autism awareness who are secretly trying to pervert, corrupt, and genocide people. So it's like maybe we can use it as a launching off point to just expose as many of those operations as we can. I don't know. Like I think going the historical route will help people rather than just live in the despair of their family members being completely cut off and blind to the reality of it, because that's again, that's trauma. And there's also an emotional investment and a time investment where these people believe the lie to the point of, well, I'm going to do my duty and I'm going to shoot it into my arm and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I think people have to ground themselves in the reality that, like, what if you took the vaccine and now these things are being relayed to you? It's like, that whole trope. What do they say? Like, being fooled, like nobody believes that they can be fooled. Like that whole aspect, it's like nobody ever admits, they never own up to it. Right. So there's a denial aspect of this that could really, like, the further away we get from this and the more pride people put behind it, it could be deadly serious. Just denial is a very powerful weapon, in denial over this issue, public health and safety. And, just do it, damn it, just take the vaccine. It's like you go to your family and you're wagging your finger in their face, telling them.
But Jesse, not as much people want the vaccine if they're offering a lottery and they're offering in West Virginia to get tailor-made guns and a lifetime hunting and fishing license.
I hope that what that serves to do is it serves to show people in the periphery. It's like, why is this okay? There's a lot of money being thrown around. That's a lot of money. Like, gosh, it's like they're just bribing people, right?
It's Pavlov's conditioning by giving them a bribe too, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's Pavlov conditioning in that case. I guess eventually it will be. But
if they keep doing it over and over and over again, it eventually take the bribes away.
Yeah, but Pavlov, really, what you're getting at there is that there's something primal, and then there's something, the whole aspect of them salivating over the meat is it's something at gut level. It's like,
but when they have the follow up next year for the next round of vaccines, people will be thinking, we get my free donut. Am I entering into the lottery that they don't get any of that? Because
that aspect of it's Pavlovian, and it's in the fact that we're already to that point, and these people just gave it up. They were so complacent and slothful. I mean, we're all convicted on some level at this point. It's just totally absurd. But Pavlov, like I think we've over-focused on Hegel sometimes, just too much. Come back to Pavlov with Fauci and it all makes sense. It's like they can do whatever they want with Fauci. It's not like the entire public is going to follow along. It's like most of them are going to be in denial in their own little, dark chamber. And then whatever happens. And it's like information will trickle down or trickle out. You got to think of the John Olivers, the Stephen Colberts, just yapping and distracting, all the bread and circus. And that's really, that's the shameful aspect of this, is just how much those turkeys have gone along with. It just makes you think, like, what type of contract did these guys sign? It's like some of them really did literally sign over to Satan or something, because this is just a whole other level of Dr. Fauci gets exposed and then come on, you can't minimize it. You can't downplay it to the level that you've been downplaying all this other stuff, right? It's like part of it, I guess, is the certainty around the third temple in Israel or something. It's almost like they're letting off the gas a little bit as they're reaching their destination. It's kind of how it feels. It's like the AI and the internet and everybody being put on a grid, everything, small businesses are collapsing and crumbling. Nobody like actually cares. Nobody's actually putting up a fight. So people are kind of confessing more and more. Just the only sliver of hope that we have is Rand Paul with his disjointed curly haircut confronting Fauci about something that he said last year. It's really sad. It's really just to drive home the point that's biblical. It's just, just think about Cain running away from the murder of Abel, and just the pitiful sight that all of humanity is in right now. It's like we're in this ditch, we're in this pit. We decided to do it on our own terms. We put our faith in science. We put our faith in NASA and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Anthony Fauci. And who's the next sucker? Who's the next scientist that these people are going to put their faith in for just no reason at all, except, for fear, shame, self-pity. That's what it's all about, John. It's shame, self-pity, loathing. And then, of course, what we'll be talking about this week, sloth.
Yeah, being slothful.
Which is the only explanation for how this could exist, for how these people could exist, how they're moving together in unison, is there's just a giant spiritual sloth somewhere controlling them, All right, buddy. Thanks again.
You can stay on, Jesse, if you want to. Billy joined us for a few minutes if you want to stay. I just want to make up a couple points. One, do you guys know where the Freedom of Information Acts originally, who requested them, that released information for the biological warfare during the 1960s and 1970s that the United States was doing? Do you know who requested and released that information from the Freedom of Information Request Act?
Was it American?
Well, they were, but it was the Church of Scientology.
No.
Yes,
Okay.
it was. Look it up.
Okay.
And also here is an article from Hot Air, which is Council for National Policy, controlled and owned. Why was a Chinese military engineering mice with humanized lungs in the summer of 2019? Well, we've been doing humanized mice since the 70s, and George Pachinik was greatly involved in it. So this is a whitewash to blame the Chinese about humanized mice when we have been doing it for decades.
So the gain of function that the Dr. Mary's book reports on, it was, I'm not going to get this 100% right, but as I recall, it was tumors on the backs of mice or rats.
Yes, it was. Yes,
it was cancer research, right?
And the idea was like, you're taking these mutated tumors and just cycling them back to get this. You just want, like, how exactly is humanity benefiting at the end of all of this? You know what I mean? I get that you're trying all these different techniques, but I believe that the biological warfare aspect of it was paired, back then in the 1960s, and it was just as secretive, and they were just as double-minded about it.
It was even before then with Plum Island. Mark from Housatonic Live
cool.
has done a lot of research on it, Jesse, like a lot, and I've done some parallel with him. Also, Carl Hass on the chat said there's another book called Mary, Fairy, and the Monkey.
Well, that was the original title for it.
It's the same thing.
Oh, it is. Okay.
The publisher just but it's a great book. I mean, it ties into all of it. I mean, I was researching Dealey Plaza and all that stuff too. Oswald in Dallas. There's another book about him, in Minsk and everything. But so you end up reading about him in New Orleans, and you go, there's so much to this. Like, it's possible that he tried to blow the whistle on it, or it's possible he was set up for it. But more to the point, it's just he's an MK Ultra patsy. He's a courier. Another book, to pair with it is Mafia Kingfish of Carlos Marcello down there. He would dispose of bodies in the alligator swamps and stuff. There's a lot of really good literature, or not literature, but just biographies and documentation on this. I think they finally compiled a lot of it into a book called Legacy of Secrets, or Legacy of Secrecy. That's the most comprehensive one that I'm aware of. But a lot of the personal accounts are just so rich. these different authors. I mentioned on Alex Jones when, that's one thing Trump did is he pushed for disclosure on JFK. I never understood why he didn't just keep going in that route. That's how he could have gotten me on his side. I would have trusted him more if he just disclosed more of the secrets. Instead, all this QAnon stuff was a distraction. But he pushed for like the FBI and CIA records on the JFK assassination. But, when I was on the air with Alex, I told him about a book called The Zenith Secret. And that was a Pentagon, I think an Army asset who got picked up to go train the Cuban frogmen in Miami to go back into their own land for the Bay of Pigs. So that was a guy who was helping to train them. And then there was another account by one of the guys who actually traveled with them named Grayston Lynch. And his account of the Bay of Pigs is incredible. So there's lots of information on Amazon. You go looking for those books. There's incredible books, incredible biographies. But
a lot of them are hard to get now.
I believe that. But this one, Dr. Mary's Monkey, I can't think of the author's name offhand.
Ed Haslam.
Yeah, he did great research, and I think it was his dad's associate who died. Like, it was years later, but he said, "What the hell is this? Why did nobody go looking?" And of course, New Orleans is just as corrupt as anywhere else, and they reported on it, but they falsely reported it, and it obviously had something to do with deeper, darker medical secrets. And all those medical secrets are, the Talmud keeps those people from talking about it. They used to put a lot of pressure on us. If we did, they would call us, mentally ill. They would put pressure. They would send, they would concern troll you and send your family letters saying, "I'm so worried about you." Now we can get a lot further with that. It's just the problem is that people they've been weighed down and exhausted, and they have to want to fight for it, John. And so I've never met you before. It's good to be on the air with you. I'm Jesse.
Billy,
you talking to me, brother?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How you doing, Jesse? I'm sorry, man. I was a little distracted, man. Pleasure to be on the air with you.
Yeah,
How you doing?
good to meet you. Great to be. I'm doing great, man.
Good for you.
Yeah. I'm glad John got on the air.
Yeah, a pleasant surprise this morning, right? I woke up and saw this. I'm trying to get through my day. I'm like, let me jump on with John.
You got anything to say real quick, Billy?
Couple of things, man.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's why I came on. Well, with this, these Chinese experiments on mice and whatever's been going on since the 70s, like you said, but the new reintroduction of this is priming. They continue to push it, and sure, they're trying to beat the war drums for China, and they have several different avenues to do that with. But I think they're just trying to prime us. Right now, I just saw a whole series on Netflix about chimeras. It's called, I forget what it's called. I just saw it, and it's all about mutants and stuff like that. But it's like it's a mix between.
Isn't it about like that kid with the deer antlers?
Yes.
Yes.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I saw it.
Right. That's exactly it. And
it's on Netflix?
It's on Netflix. I'm trying to find the name of it. Is that it? Yeah, Sweet Tooth. That's the name of it. You're right.
Yeah, I saw the promo for it yesterday.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we need to figure out what the angle of that is. They're doing some soft disclosure, drip feed, some kind of weird. Keep going. Yeah.
Every week, something comes out about it, right? Every week, it's half human, half ape, or they're trying to put like a human DNA in monkey embryos, right? And they let this thing live for 19 days and then they killed it, supposedly. This just came out like this week. They continue to pump this out there in order to get it into the consciousness of the people, in my opinion. And are they
coming from like the animal rights kind of angle?
No, they're just plainly stating
programming. Okay, yeah,
right. They're plainly stating it. They're like, this is what's going on, and there are some people that are ethically opposed to it because it blurs the lines of humanity and all that stuff. But they're still going forward with it, and they're doing it in a way that's safe and nobody needs to worry about it. Right? That's the way they're rolling it out.
Right. Well, and of course, they're whatever they're reporting, they're at least 60 to 100 years more advanced than what they're actually telling us. And anytime these subjects come up, people will, remind us, and it's true, that what a lot of this has to do with is empty human vessels with, some sort of demonic entities coming in possessing, which is another angle to this. But this, chimeras and hybrids is a huge issue. It's a huge humanitarian issue, and it's something that people should have pushed back on a lot sooner.
So the monoclonal antibody drugs are actually called chimeric antibody drugs, because when they first tried to develop in the 1970s, they were just taking animal antibodies where they exposed the animals to diseases and injecting it into humans, and they weren't really doing anything. So now they've injected stem cells since the 70s from aborted fetal tissue. Me and Mark's theory is this may have been what Roe versus Wade was really about. The research for this, the University of Washington. And they extract the stem cells after grinding up fetal human livers, or fetal human thymuses, or fetal human, whatever organ you need. They started injecting the infant mice with these stem cells, so they developed humanized body parts. And then they expose the humanized mice to said disease, and then they extract the antibodies from said disease and make these monoclonal antibody type drugs, which, the Regeneron drug, they claim isn't made that way. I can't find any information because they won't give out the proprietary information on that. However, most monoclonal antibody drugs are made chimerically now. Trump said that drug was a gift from God. And it is my belief that it was a Regeneron SARS-CoV-2 antibody drug that my uncle had a negative reaction to and will later die because of this chimeric drug.
No way.
So, he developed, he was doing better. He was recovering in the hospital, but then he developed multi-drug resistant antibiotic pneumonia about 6 to 8 hours later after getting the Regeneron SARS-CoV-2 treatment. When he was, his white blood cell count was good, no known infection, he wasn't having a fever. Now, granted, you could have got a hospital-acquired infection, but he was off the BiPAP machine and was doing better. So again, I believe it's it was because of the drug. So.
Well, just to get spiritual for a second on that topic is, I have to look back at secular me from a few years ago. These people are under a spell. It's an enchantment. You've got Silicon Valley going to, Burning Man, right? And you got the Eric Weinstein types. What are they talking about? What's Peter Thiel and Eric Weinstein talking about? It's the Holy Grail. It is the shame that I was talking about in the Indiana Jones movie. It's like it's these people are looking for the Holy Grail. They're looking for life extension, and everybody's just a little bit under that spell. It's the worship of science. Even if Dr. Fauci is not the Holy Grail, the search for the Holy Grail continues. And so, the Nazi tank is going to roll over Anthony Fauci and continue looking for, everlasting life, whether it's through the use of a clone body or a chimera, what is it? Like the ear on the back of I remember the first time I saw an image of a mouse with a human ear growing on it.
I remember that picture. Right.
These people that you go under a spell, you go under a trance because you just say, what could be possible? What is possible? These are the thought pioneers. These are the dreamers. It's like, Walt Disney, the Imagineers, right?
Right.
Sad, but that's the places these people go. And of course they don't realize that there are these deep, dark labs like Resident Evil. I mean, that whole umbrella complex is a real thing. It's like makes you wonder if that's the purpose of those video games, is just saying, well, when all these secrets start coming out, at least people will, they'll be primed for it. I think you're
right. I think you're right. Right. Like I think most people, if you ask them if they think that things like this are actually going on, like after they've played the video game, right? After they've been exposed to something like this, whether it be in a movie or a video game or whatever, and you ask them, hey, do you think this is a real thing? Do you think something to this effect, not necessarily exactly how it's presented, but do you think something to this effect is real and exists? I think they'll say yes. Most people will be like, yeah, sure. I'm sure there's something going on, and keep walking about their business, right? They keep right on going. But the priming is real, right? So, and you're absolutely right too. I think everything's going to come out at some point. And it'll be deliberate. It's like what's up?
Did you say delivery?
Deliberate. It'll be deliberate. They'll do it on purpose. They'll leak it out like a little bit. I think bits at a time, which is what they're doing. But I think they'll just get more, reveal a little bit more each time. Go ahead.
That's the Pavlov part of it is these people end up they because of the movies and the video games, individually they're not showing any originality. They're not showing any inventive thought. The zombie video games and movies have primed the pump for them, where they first started getting reports of coronavirus and all those images out of China, and they said, I'm not going to be patient zero. In fact, I'm going to be the one who walls myself in and survives the zombie apocalypse. I mean, I saw a lot of these people bragging about it. It's like they're actually intellectually proud about how many zombie movies they had seen and their level of preparedness for watching said zombie movies. They see that as an asset. Yeah. They did see it as an asset. They do see it as an asset. They've thought this through, where human life might be redeemable on a distant moon of Saturn or Jupiter, and that's it. We don't deserve to live on this planet. We've already lost our welcome, and maybe one of these scientists, on the edge of Titan, they're going to redeem everything about humanity that was a failure. And it's sad. It's like dragging these kids kicking and screaming out of this fantasy. And I was under the fantasy too at one point. It's just, you would hope that in the last couple of years, we could have gotten a little bit further.
Oh yeah. Mark from Houston Live wanted me to mention Michael Crichton and Jurassic Park and the programming with that.
Yeah, that podcast I sent you today, they did a draft of Jurassic Park. So that was preserved through amber, a mosquito, a blood sample. Think about that. I mean, right? There's hope, right? It's like a time capsule. It's like humanity's a failed experiment, but maybe something will be encased in amber and we can start all over again.
Do you want to say anything in closing, Billy? I gotta go, you guys.
Nah, I'm good, brother. I gotta go too. Thank you for having me, John. Pleasure to speak.
You too, Jesse. You want to say anything in closing, real quick for me?
Just, I think you said Ed Haslam, Dr. Mary's Monkey.
Right.
Order it, get it. Everybody's got it. Target's got a copy. Amazon's got a copy.
Go to Trine Day, right? Trine Day Books carries all of those books. They're the publisher for all of those books that you mentioned.
There you go. And our parents, the boomers, with all their vaccines, cancer rates, polio, all that stuff.